The final boarding call echoed across the Atlanta airport, urgent and cold. Amara sprinted through the terminal, her suitcase wheels barely keeping up. Her heart pounded, not just from the run, but from what waited on the other end of that gate. Seattle. The job interview. Her one shot at changing everything. She weaved through the crowd, ignoring the annoyed glances. She didn't care. She had saved for months. She had stayed silent through rude customers at the diner, long nights at the nursing home, and all the looks people gave her just for existing in certain spaces. This flight was her escape. Final boarding for Flight 493 to Seattle, the speaker repeated. Just 10 more steps. The gate was in sight. Then, a groan. She froze mid-stride. Behind her, near a row of chairs, an old white man had crumpled to the floor. His cane rolled away, and his hand clutched his chest. People looked, then looked away. A couple walked past. A uniformed employee paused, then kept moving. No one stopped. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers tightened around her boarding pass. She looked ahead. The flight attendant was scanning the last ticket. Just a few more seconds, and she'd be on that plane. Her whole future was right there. The man groaned again, this time weaker. Her eyes flicked back to him, then to the gate, then back again. Her legs didn't move. Neither did anyone else's. It was a moment she knew she would never get back. One step forward, and she could be in Seattle, maybe start a new life. But one step back, and everything she worked for might disappear. She let out a breath. Then she turned around and ran back. No cameras, no witnesses. Just her, kneeling beside a man who couldn't breathe, while the rest of the world looked away. She wasn't always this strong, but life had trained her to be. Back in Memphis, Amara's days started before the sun rose. She worked the early shift at a corner diner, where the manager never bothered to learn her name and the customers acted like she wasn't even there, unless their coffee was late. Then she'd head to her second job at a nearby senior care facility, where she changed sheets, fed patients, and listened to stories no one else had time for. She didn't complain. She couldn't afford to. Her grandma had raised her after her mother passed, and now the roles had reversed. Rent wasn't cheap. Groceries didn't wait. Dreams took a back seat when survival was the first priority. But still, Amara dreamed. She had always wanted to work with children, especially those with disabilities. She believed they saw the world with more color than most adults ever would. A nonprofit in Seattle had posted an opening, community coordinator. It didn't pay much, but it offered something she hadn't felt in years: hope. She applied. Didn't hear back for weeks. Then, finally, an email. You've been shortlisted. In-person interview required. It felt unreal. She had stared at her cracked phone screen in disbelief. She'd scraped every spare dollar for the flight, skipped meals, sold old clothes online, told no one. She didn't want to jinx it. This job wasn't just a job. It was her chance to be respected for something beyond her skin. Somewhere new. Somewhere where no one called her aggressive for speaking up, or unprofessional for wearing her hair natural. She had imagined walking into that office in Seattle, calm and prepared. She had picked out the cheapest business outfit she could afford, practiced her lines in the mirror every night. All she had to do was board that flight. 1 hour in the air, and her whole life could begin to shift. But instead, she was on the floor, helping a stranger who couldn't breathe. Because something in her heart whispered, if I walk away, who will help him? And deep down, she already knew. She had made her choice. The paramedics arrived just as the old man's breathing steadied beneath Amara's hands. She had done what she could, checked his pulse, tilted his head, kept him talking, kept him conscious. Her training from the senior home kicked in like instinct. They took over, thanking her briefly before rolling him away on a stretcher. That was it. No applause, no reward. Just the sharp click of wheels fading down the corridor. Then came the voice over the speaker. Final call for Flight 493 has now ended. The gate is closed. Amara turned slowly. The gate she had run toward with every ounce of hope was now sealed shut. A plane began taxiing away from the terminal, disappearing from view like everything she had planned. She walked to the gate anyway, boarding pass crushed in her fist. A white gate agent looked up from her screen. "I helped someone," Amara said, her voice calm but cracking. The woman didn't blink. "I'm sorry. Once the doors close, there's nothing we can do." "I had a medical emergency," she added. He could have died." "I understand," the woman replied, her tone as dry as the carpet beneath her feet. "But you missed your boarding window. No offer to rebook. No refund. No sympathy. Just a blank stare that made Amara feel invisible all over again. She stood there, silent, then turned and walked away, her suitcase wobbling behind her. Her legs felt heavy, her chest heavier. By the time she found an empty seat at Gate 16, the adrenaline had drained from her body. She collapsed into the plastic chair, clutching her phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Seattle. Interview. Dream. She typed a short message. "I'm so sorry. I missed my flight due to an emergency. I understand if the position is no longer available." She hit send, then powered the phone off. No calls, no begging, just silence. Around her, people laughed and chatted, dragging carry-ons and sipping coffee like nothing happened. No one noticed the woman who gave up everything for a stranger who didn't even know her name. Amara sat motionless, not angry, not proud, just tired. Her future had taken off without her. But somehow, she still didn't regret what she had done. Hours passed. Amara remained at Gate 16, legs crossed, arms folded, staring at nothing. She hadn't cried. Not really. But something inside her felt hollow, like her body had shown up for her life, but her life hadn't shown up for her. She had no money left, no backup plan, no flight, just the clothes she wore and the suitcase she hadn't opened. Then a voice broke through her fog. "Ma'am?" She looked up. A young airport worker in a navy vest stood in front of her, holding a small slip of paper. "Someone's waiting for you at Gate 2, he said. Her brow furrowed. "Who?" "I don't know," the worker shrugged. "But they said it's important." Amara hesitated. She hadn't told anyone where she was. She hadn't made any noise. Why would someone be asking for her? Still, something told her to stand. She gathered her bag and walked across the terminal, unsure if she was walking into more disappointment. Or something else. At Gate 2, two men in gray suits stood calmly near the wall. They weren't TSA. They weren't cops. But they radiated quiet authority. "Miss Amara Brooks?" one of them asked. "Yes?" "Mr. Granger would like a moment of your time." They didn't explain further, just turned and gestured down a side corridor toward a frosted glass door with gold lettering. Inside was a private lounge, quiet, warm, softly lit. Nothing like the noisy chaos of the main terminal. Leather couches, fresh flowers, bottled water lined neatly on a silver tray. And in the center, seated like he had been waiting all day just for her, was the same old man. Except now, he wasn't slumped. His coat wasn't wrinkled. His voice wasn't trembling. He wore a tailored navy suit. His shoes shined. A cup of tea sat untouched beside him. He looked up and smiled. "I thought you might not come." Amara blinked. "You're okay?" "Thanks to you," he nodded. She stepped forward slowly, stunned. "I missed my flight." "I know," he said. "And I'm sorry." Then he extended his hand. "Sit with me. We need to talk." Amara sat down slowly, still unsure if she was dreaming. The man leaned forward, his voice steady now, not a hint of weakness left. "My name is Thomas Granger. I'm one of the co-founders of North Star Airlines." She stared at him, trying to connect the man who had collapsed hours ago with the one in front of her now. "You own the airline?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "I helped build it," he said with a faint smile. "These days, my kids run most of it, but I like to travel anonymously. See how my company treats people when they think no one's watching." He studied her carefully. "Today, I saw something rare. In a place where people usually rush past, you stopped." "I did what anyone should have done," Amara said softly. He shook his head. "That's the problem. Most wouldn't." Amara looked down, unsure what to say. "I asked around," he continued. "Found your name, your boarding pass, your story. I know you missed your flight. I know about the job interview." She glanced up sharply. "How?" He lifted his phone. "Let's just say I made a few calls." Amara's heart raced. This couldn't be real. "I've already spoken with the Seattle office. Your interview is being rescheduled," he said. "But that's not all." He leaned back, folding his hands. "I want you to meet my board. I've been planning a new charitable wing for this airline. Something focused on caregivers, underprivileged travelers, and elderly support. Until now, I hadn't found the right person to lead it." Her mouth opened slightly. "If the interview goes well, the position is yours. Full salary, housing included, and a team built around your vision." "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do all this for me?" Thomas looked her in the eye. "Because you reminded me of something this industry forgets too often. That the people who care the most are usually the ones no one ever sees." He smiled gently. "But I saw you, Amara, when no one else did." Word about what happened spread fast. By the time Amara stepped out of the private lounge, the terminal felt different. Airport staff glanced at her with uncertain eyes. Some whispered. Some avoided her gaze altogether. The same white gate agent who had dismissed her earlier now stood rigid near the customer service desk. She looked up, recognized Amara, and her face drained of color. Thomas Granger walked beside her, calm and composed. His presence was unmistakable now. Everyone knew who he was. He stopped a few feet from the agent. "This is the young woman you turned away, correct?" The agent fumbled. I didn't know." "That's exactly the point," he said. "You didn't care to know." She stood speechless. A nearby supervisor approached, trying to smooth things over. "Mr. Granger, if we had known—" He raised a hand. "Number, you don't get to fix this with apologies. Actions speak louder. Hers saved a life. Yours nearly cost her a future." The conversation ended there. Minutes later, the supervisor and the gate agent were both escorted away by airport security. terminated on the spot. Amara stood quietly, unsure how to react. A few passengers began recording as Granger addressed them openly. "Sometimes," he said, "a corporation fails its own values. But today, one person reminded me why we built this airline. For people, not profit." He turned to Amara. "Come, your plane is ready." She followed him, not to a waiting area, but to a sleek private jet bearing the North Star logo. No lines, no baggage checks, no judgment. As she stepped inside, staff greeted her with warmth. One of them smiled and said, "Welcome aboard, Miss Brooks." For the first time that day, she exhaled fully. She wasn't just flying. She was finally being seen. 2 weeks later, the Seattle skyline glowed behind Amara as she walked through the doors of a local youth center, now funded entirely by North Star Airlines. She wore a soft gray blazer and a name badge that read, "Director, Community Impact Division." Children rushed past her in the hallway, laughing. Volunteers waved. Staff smiled with respect, not pity, not indifference. Her office wasn't big, but it had windows and dignity. She sat at her desk and glanced at the framed photo on the wall, her grandma holding her at age 5. Below it, a note from Thomas Granger. "To those who stop, even when the world keeps moving." Amara had never posted her story. No tweet, no viral clip. She'd refused every media request. What happened at that airport belonged to her, and to the man who saw her when no one else did. Later that afternoon, she walked past a local school. Through the fence, a young black girl looked up and locked eyes with her. Amara smiled. The girl's eyes widened, not in fear, not in surprise, but in recognition, as if she saw something possible. Amara kept walking, heels tapping softly on the sidewalk, wind tugging at her blazer. She didn't need applause. She didn't need attention. She had missed a flight. But somehow, she had arrived exactly where she was meant to be.